Okay, so now we've gotten starter up to where it will record both the response of the participant and the reaction time, record both of those to a log file, which is really nice. And now we're going to learn how to evaluate the response in this video. This will be part of a chapter for the book where we evaluate the response. And, well, we'll see what else we get to in that chapter. It's already starting to get kind of long. So at least we're going to evaluate the response right now. Figure out whether it's correct or incorrect, and then save that information in the log file as well. And then going forward, this will allow us to do things like alter the behavior of the program based on whether or not the participant is giving the correct responses or not. Okay, for example, giving them error feedback or giving them more trials or whatever it is we decide we need to do. But first we need to be able to evaluate the response. And what we're going to do, we're going to farm that off to a new function. So up here in my function prototypes, I'm going to go ahead and put in a new function. I'm going to make it an integer, and we're going to call it eval response, just short for evaluate the response. And I'm going to have to pass to the eval the response the target color, right? Because that's what determines whether we want a right or a left button push is the color of the stimulus that we're presenting. And then I'm also going to have to pass to it the response itself, so it can figure out whether that was the right thing to do. And here in our function prototypes, we need a semicolon at the end, but we do not need that when we actually write the trial itself. So now I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste what I've just done here up to that semicolon. Not going to grab that. And copy. Come down here to the end of the program and put in my new function. Okay, and then I'm going to put in my curly brackets for the new function. And now I'm going to leave that for now. We will write that function in just a second. But first, let's go up and figure out what we need to do in main in order to record these data. All right, so one of the first things we need to do is actually have a variable, or an array, an array, that is going to collect these correct or incorrect, evaluations, these evaluations of correct or incorrect. I feel like I'm forgetting something. No, I think we're good for now. Okay, so I'm going to call this trial underscore ACK for accuracy, and it is an array. I need trials elements in ACK, trial ACK. So this will record a series, and we're going to make we're just going to record zeros and ones. 0 means inaccurate or an error, and 1 means accurate, the correct response. Okay, and now I need to populate that array by calling my evaluation function here in the loop where I actually do the trials. So I do the trials. Once I've done one trial, I have one response, right? Also one reaction time, but we're not worried about the reaction time just yet. Actually, we won't worry about it at all in this video. So I could, right here after I call the trial function and get my response back, and that is set equal to trial rep, right? The ith trial rep gets set to the value of the response from the participant. And here I set the value for that trial stimulus to whatever I told the trial function to show the participant. And I could call this evaluation function right here. But if I do that, I'm going to also have to call it here. 1 second. Okay, sorry for that interruption. Okay, so if we call it within the loop or the if statement that calls a single type of trial, we're going to have to do it for every type of trial. So instead, I'm just going to come here to the end of all of those conditional statements that are figuring out what kind of trial I want to show, and I'm just going to call it here. So here I am going to set trial ACK, the ith trial ACK, equal to evaluate the response, and then I need to pass to eval response the trial stimulus, the ith one, and the trial report, what the response was. All right, and I need a semicolon at the end of that line, and so now I'm going to pass to eval response what the stimulus was, what the response was, and have it evaluate and set that value to the ith value of trial ACK. And now while we're here in main, let's go ahead and put that data into our log file. And so we're going to do that here at the very end, right after the reaction time. So I'm going to put a \t, and then I'm going to call it correct. And it'll be 0 if it's not correct, 1 if it is correct. That just kind of makes the most sense to me. And now here in the where we actually write the data, in the fprintf statement that writes the data, right after the reaction time, another \t to put a tab between the reaction time and whether it's correct or not. And now this is another integer, so %i, that we're going to write in there. And then I need to come over here to the end of this list and put in the accuracy. So this is, again, the trial underscore ACK square bracket I. Okay, and if I've got my syntax all correct, that should work. But now I need to actually come down and actually write the function that's going to evaluate the response. Okay, so coming down here. So what do we get? We get the target color and the response. Oh, and I would need to make one change just for convenience sake. I probably, if I had thought this entire program out from start to finish completely before I started recording these videos, I probably should have done this at the very beginning, but I didn't. I didn't have that much foresight. So, you know, things that are arbitrary, I just sort of didn't care about. And so I made red equal 1 and green equal 2. And then I made left response equal 1 and right equal 2. But, you know, in my definitions up here. But, and the left equal 1 and right equal 2 makes a lot of sense because that actually matches the mouse button identifiers. So to Allegro, the left mouse button is mouse button 1 and the right mouse button is mouse button 2. So it makes a lot of sense to make left response 1 and right response 2. But it also makes sense, at least in my own head, maybe you disagree, but in my own head, the right is red, or red is right, right for red. That mnemonic sort of helps me remember a mapping between behavior and response so that it makes sense for red to be the right response. So, but I made red equal to 1. Now I can go ahead and evaluate the response this way. I could just say if the stimulus was red, if the response equals right, then make the response correct. But that's very complicated, whereas I can make this super simple by just changing red to 2 and green to 1. And what is that going to allow me to do? Well, down here now in my evaluate the response, I can just say if the target color is equal to the response, then make the response correct. All right, I first need a variable, an int correct. I'm going to call this integer correct, and I'm going to set it equal to 0 right where I declare it. And that way, if nothing changes, it's going to be incorrect. And then I'm going to tell the eval response function that if the response is equal to, and remember I want to use 2 equal signs here, not just 1, equal to the target color. 2 equals, because that 2 equals compares these two things. 1 equal sign will set this one, the one on the left, equal to the one on the right. And that's, I do not want to do that. So the 2 equal signs. Now what do I want it to do if that's the case? I want it to make correct equal 1, semicolon. And that way, anytime this is true, the participant emitted a correct response, and I get that marked as a 1. And then the last thing I need to do is, in order to allow main to set my trial ACK array equal to the value of this evaluation, I need to return that value. So I need to return correct, semicolon. All right. So this should work. Let's give it a try here. Let me open up my. There's where my starter program is. Now I need to build it. Build starter. We'll see if I had any error. Oops, had an error. What is this error? In line 67, trial stimulus. What did I do? Line 67. Trial underscore stimulus. Haha, yep, underscore stimulus. Okay, hopefully now that's all correct. Let's build it again. One success, no failures. Okay, I've already got a log here from when I was earlier testing all this stuff, so let me delete that before I run starter. All right, so now let's run starter. I'm going to miss the first couple. Okay, I'm clicking away. Right for red, left for green. I probably missed the first one. Okay, and let's open up our log. And it did. It was correct. Okay, fantastic. So you can see here, I have the trial numbers here. It doesn't look like it lines up, but again, that's because of a notepad. If we open this up in Excel, it will align correctly. It didn't align right here. It aligned differently here because of that negative number, and that again was the first response, and that's just because I was trying to grab the program from my second screen. But yeah, this looks like it all came out correctly. So we have the trial number, the target color, what the response was, how fast I responded, and then whether or not that was a correct response or not. And of course, it's not correct the first time because I don't think I even responded on that trial, which is also why the reaction time comes out all weird. We'll talk about when we talk about cleaning data, how to correct for those sorts of things. But for now, this all worked, and we're good to go.